an alligator. I'm a mama, papa coming for you.
It's raining.
Alright guys, well welcome to What's New with Goodman Games. Thanks for coming. My name is Joseph Goodman. Goodman Games. These guys can introduce themselves as well.
I'm Michael Curtis. Obviously not in Michael Curtis Games, but in association with Goodman Games.
I'm Jim Walpole, Deadline.
So I'm going to just tell you guys about some stuff that's going on. Part of it's going to be some of the products we've released. Part of it's going to be some of the other cool stuff by people I know and like also have stuff at the booth over here. I'm going to talk you through some of the current Kickstarters, where their status is at, how stuff is shipping and stuff like that. Then we're going to show off some cool product samples of upcoming releases and actually tell you about some stuff. And then I'll be joined over the course of this by some special guests. Out of the scene. So first, just to talk you through some of the cool stuff. You guys feel free to grab seats for me. Grab seats.
Thank you.
So I'm going to just show you some of the stuff that's out there. We actually have so much stuff that moved this year that we could not display at all. Like John Hirschberger actually runs the booth here for us when it's coming to Black Lake Games. Grab some information on it. And between us and some of the other people who grab some, we basically had 4 booths for the product and 3 booths. So if you go back during the course of the con, there was product that is coming out that got out before because this stuff sells down, he puts out new titles. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff that we have. Some of this was not actually on sale yet because first, let me show you some of the books that we have. This guy right here, Ronar X Purple Planet Adventure, which is Sky Masters of the Purple Planet. It's a great adventure set in the Purple Planet. You guys probably know we did a long set last year and so on, and we're sort of slowly expanding the initial adventures. It's on sale this year. Brendan LaSalle, who's not here because he's running a game, he's the guy who created X-Crawl, which is kind of like mind dungeon crawling with like WWF and Wheel of Fortune. It's televised on TV. And it's set under a different rule system, but we're very slowly porting it over to DCC rules, which is great. So this is the DCC RPG edition of Boston Call, which is his latest X-Crawl adventure. And this is a reprint of Dark Tower. So we'll talk more about our Judge's Note project soon. But what we've been doing is scanning the original, literally the originals, like copies that, for the most part, are turned up in Bob Bloodside's room or basement. But it's scanned from the originals and then scanned at very high quality, digitally restored, and then printed at very high quality to give you something. It's like a play version. A lot of the guys who own this nowadays don't want to ever play it because they're doing like a $200 original. So this went on sale and literally sold out within like 4 hours, which is crazy. So we have some, well, I printed enough for the con that I printed what I thought was enough for the con. There's a few extra to the website. So it will go on sale on the website in about 3 weeks. I'll get a copy of it. Sorry, we'll print more next time. Collector's item, right. Then we have, so Doug Kovacs, who does the cover art for the DCC modules, does an amazing job. And what's also amazing about Doug's art is he often does these pencil sketches that are frankly publishable in their own right. So what we've done lately is reprint covers, basically as a module goes to reprint, we're going to reprint a variation that has one of his pencil sketches on it. So this is the Emerald Enchanter, which was DCC number 69, but printed with his pencil sketch. And then Joe Goodman had written this whole sequel to this, which we went ahead and included. So this is the Gary Con edition. This is the Gary Con logo on the back. We still think he's up to the booth. And then Mr. Jim Ward, who will be talking later, wrote an amazing game called Metamorphosis Alpha, which you guys probably know we did a Kickstarter for a year and a half ago now. And that was the deluxe oversized edition. Some people don't have bookshelves big enough, or coffee tables big enough. So we finally have the paperback edition, which is also for sale. Then we have the coolest thing ever. This is either the best idea we ever had or the worst idea we ever had. I will tell.
That's not exclusive terms.
So this started as a crazy idea. You guys know, like you go to the 7-Eleven, I'm sure you all buy lottery tickets. Right, maybe. And you get the scratchers. So this is our first scratcher dungeon. And I'm going to show you how this works. You should have all, the rule is you get one for free. So come by the booth and pick up one for free if you didn't already get one. Our marketing strategies are essentially based on crack cocaine. So the first hit's free, and there's $1 after that. So if you have an addictive personality, please come by the booth. We still have to move these.
Or an alley nearby.
But literally you take a quarter, you scratch off your warrior. I have a level 4 warrior. Scratch off your thief. I have a level 8 thief. And my wizard is level 5. then you decide which of the 3 rooms you're going to go into. So I'm going to go into area 1-2. And it's all randomized, so you don't know what you're going to get. This is so cool. I got a skeleton horde, and I can defeat it. I can defeat it if any of my characters gets a 9 or better. So they all have a level. What I do now is I scratch out their rolls. There's 3 rolls, so you pick the one you're going to want. So I'll scratch the one on the left. I got an 8, so cool. Any one of my I only needed a 9, so basically 8 plus my ultimate warrior gets me 12, so I defeat the skeleton. Pretty well. Yay! Alright, so there's three areas on level 2. 1, 2, or 3. Where would you guys like me to go?
2.
Alright, 2. Go there. 2.
Where's the treasure that I got for defeating those skeletons?
Well, if you make it to the end, you get the treasure.
Wandering monster, they don't carry treasure.
So now I got a giant slug. I need a 10 or better. So let's scratch off my level 2 roll. I got a 5 plus any of these guys. 5 plus my thief at 8 gives me 13, so I defeated the giant slug. This is actually great. Half of them have like TPKs. So I'm on a roll here. This is not the plan. Okay. Now the final area, area 3-1, has a... Oh, I got a Lich King.
I gotta roll a 22.
Actually, I need an 18. So my thief is an 8, so I basically need a 10. It's all 1 through 10 results. So I don't get a 10 of it.
We'll edit this out.
Yeah. I got a 3, so I'm dead. So I wasted $1.
So are they all dead or just the one?
Oh, sorry. Thank you for the reminder. Good thing somebody here knows the rules.
Yeah.
So my thief is dead. So what you do is you tear your thief.
I know how that is.
The trouble is the other ones aren't high enough level to defeat the Lich King, so I'm still dead. So good reminder, but yeah.
Are we allowed to tear that, or Jim, do you have that copyrighted? That's it.
No, tearing is not a copyright of James Moore.
That's a good reminder. Well, I already died, but that's a good reminder. What you can do earlier on, there's a magic scratch. You have to accept the results. Most are good, some are bad. So if I scratch my magic. Magic scratcher. That's seen on TV.
Trademark.
I would have got a ring of luck. Oh man, which would have given me +2 to my thief, which you're right, I totally should have done that. No problem.
Well, if you turned it in, nobody's gonna know. So he did it.
Thanks for just publicly announcing how to cheat the system. Recall, ladies and gentlemen. He's right though.
How many different
We'll work on
sheets
that
are there,
next
Joe?
one. There's a lot. Yeah.
A
We'll
lot
get
is a
one
really
for free.
number, I don't
Yeah. That's how we print these things.
know. Okay.
But
What's the potential treasure you could win?
why? That's an amazing question. So if I had gotten that,
Amazing is a trademark.
so I would have won 300 gold pieces.
Ooh.
If you get 1,000 gold pieces, you come by the booth and get a gift certificate, which is worth $10 in our booth. So that's the idea. Yeah. So it's cool. And if you guys like this, if the concept is good, we'll do more Scratcher Dungeons. I have a 4-year-old son, and he really doesn't care about anything I publish. But this is the one thing, when he saw this, he was like scratching like there's no tomorrow. So I think there's a kid appeal here if we figure it out. Anyway, so that's the new products. We also have some free stuff. Pick up a copy of your games cassette, which is free to purchase. And we have some t-shirts. Yes. So I'm sporting this Barbarian t-shirt. Part of the backs. So we have the Road Crew t-shirts. These are actually a lot of fun. Whether you're running games for the Road Crew or not, why not? Stephen Pogue artwork. Then we have Stephen Pogue's amazing Last Captain of the Warden art. This is the art that we all saw. Yeah. We saw that art and we were like, we gotta put this on a t-shirt, a book cover, like something else. Like it's so just engaging.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. So this one's down there as well. It's a great shirt. Then there's also other products for sale at the Black Blade Games booth, which is the booth that hosts our stuff. I'm going to show you some of these. First, the DCC third-party publishing community has done an amazing job of producing all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff down there for sale. We got Null Singularity, Call of the Dragon Slayer, the latest issue of Crawling Under a Broken Moon, World Quest of the Winter Calendar. And I've shown off some of the newer stuff and just some of the stuff in general that's out there. Rongo, Ruins of the Witch Kingdoms. There's a lot of cool stuff. And then if you are a DCC fan and want to wander around until you find a guy named Dave. David Beatty also has on sale out of his backpack, Carnival of the Damned. Oh, you're all out? Okay. Well, this will be awesome. If can get it after pick it up after the con. You can pick it up from Purple Sorcerer Games, if I remember correctly. Yep.
I think you get it on Boxer too.
Cool. Okay. And this is the homemade spiral bound that he's running on his own. Of course, if you buy it, you get the perfect combination. And then Tom Denmark is an illustrator and graphic designer who's been working with us on a couple of projects, which I'll tell you about soon. But he has his own. This is not going to be these. This is Tom's personal project. But he calls these "What If" original edition books. So the idea is, if D&D had originally been written as a Mars adventure, he has Warriors of the Red Fleet. If D&D had originally been written as sort of a hard sci-fi, he has Colonial Troopers, and of course one that's a superhero version as well. So it's a really cool concept if you like old school games. Check them out. They're down there. All right, let's see. And then the other thing to check out, if you happen to get a copy of the program guide, or if you want to come by and pick up the free flyer at booth, we have an ad inside the front cover and the free flyer at booth, which is the trivia contest. This is a lot of fun. It's trivia based on talking to a bunch of old school TSR employees, just guys from back in the day, as well as Jim Morton about Men at Washington Alpha, Bob Bledsoe Jr. about the Judges Guild, and just other random stuff. So just to give you an idea, the first question is, in the winter of 1979, Aero Lotus crashed through the ice of a frozen lake, almost drowning and freezing at the same time. Whose borrowed snowmobile was it, Ryan? So a lot of this is trivia that you won't necessarily know unless you talk to some of these guys, but it's a lot of fun. And if you answer all the questions, you win. If you answer at least 15 questions. Yeah, you got to get half of them right, 15 questions. You get 12 heifers, a cask of fine spices, 9 silver ingots, and a harem of dancing girls. While supplies last, after that, you get a pat on the back. Come on by the booth. All right, so let's see. I think that's most of the products. Any questions on products before I go on to the Kickstarter updates?
What are those books again, Warriors of the Red Fleet?
Yeah, they're called. Tom publishes them in their Night Owl Workshop, which is you'll find them in the Black Lake. Oh, I should clarify what they're game books. The principle is it's a self-contained book very similar to OD&D, so it uses rules that are based on the original edition of D&D. But, he calls them What If, because it's, what if the original edition of D&D was set on the Red Planet instead of being in a more open-ass fantasy environment? Or what if it was using hard sci-fi rules in settings and so on? Yeah, go flip through them if you get a chance. They're cool. It's good stuff. Yeah. All right, so here's what's going on with our various Kickstarters. First, Group 2 Stress. I have to tell you guys a story. This is all real. There's certain things you don't put, there's certain things I won't put in writing on the internet. Because then, there's just some stuff you don't talk about on the internet because it's personal and so on. So what happened with Group 2 Stress is, first of all, we produced a book. We had it like 90% done.
Technical difficulties. Video recording.
And we produced it, and then when we expanded it to add the additional content for the Gold Full Edition, we had to scan another 160 pages, add all these inserts and portfolios and stuff, and that added its equivalent to roughly 50% of the original project. Then we had to relay out the original book because the gutter width changed, because it was now like an extra 160 pages, blah, blah, blah. So all that happened, that took a long time. But also happened during this time is the printer had staff turnover, which is the part that didn't really update. So there's people at the printer whose job is to print stuff. One of the important jobs they have is, when we design a project like this, we tell them we want to produce a book that has this many pages and has these things tucked inside the cover and it has this kind of paperweight. And they send us back information that includes your spine should be 27 millimeters wide. And if you want to design the corrugated mailer, here's the die line they call it, and you should put your stuff and put your art in these places and so on. So that person at the printer was highly unresponsive. I got an email from their boss that said so-and-so is no longer with us. We want this so-and-so, this other person. So there's actually a pretty significant delay of waiting for information. Once the Kickstarter resulted in expanded content, we basically didn't get the info we needed for a while. Then we finally got it, things finally started. And the other part, that's the crazy story. So when the printer finally finished this book, which was right around Christmas, they were finally shipping it all out. And they, for whatever reason, decided to ship the primary portion, which is the U.S. delivery, in 2 separate containers. They basically finished most of it, so rather than wait on it all, they shipped out 1 container worth, and then a couple weeks later they shipped out the rest. So you can view this as kind of half glass empty or half glass full. On the one hand, some people get it earlier, on the other hand, some people get it later. So we actually, just so you guys understand the complexities now with the way the industry's going, it used to be you shipped everything you had. Back in the era of Judges Guild and Metamorphosis Alpha, you shipped everything to the warehouse that did your distribution sales. And that was, 80, 90% of what you're going to sell. And you had a little bit left over for conventions and stuff like that. Nowadays, I had shipped one shipment to the warehouse that does the distribution sales. I shipped one shipment to we have a smaller facility that does like online sales. And I ship one to the company in the UK that fulfills our European orders. And I ship another one to the company in Australia that fulfills Australia and New Zealand orders. And I ship a last shipment to a different facility in the US that does all the pick and pack, all the Kickstarter and direct mail orders, which is now a pretty substantial number. So there's a bunch of different containers that go to the business. So people think, well, why did that guy get his order and I didn't get mine? Or why did the retailer get his and I didn't get mine? And it's because, well, the shipment for Australia actually arrived on time, whereas the shipment for the US got held up in customs or whatever. So 4 of the 5 shipments arrived okay. The one that was destined for the US Kickstarter fulfillment company arrived. The way it works is it arrives at the port, we get a notification that we told the right guys, and they go pick it up in the truck. We never got that notification, either us or the destination facility. Here's why. The first notification we got was that we owe $250 for what's called overage, which is basically if something sits in the port too long, they start charging you. We got an email saying you didn't pick it up for 72 hours, now you owe us money for demurrage. So we, went back and sort of debated that point. Well, we never got notification. The facility never got notification. While we were debating that point, which took 2 days, the demurrage is down to $500. Then the longshoremen went on strike. So you guys probably didn't get that update. So the longshoremen went on strike on Friday. That's considered force majeure, which means an act of God. So demurrage continues to accrue. So over the 3 days, they're actually only on strike for like 48 hours or something, but that was the weekend. So over the 3 days of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we racked up another, I think it was $750 in demurrage charges. Meanwhile, they couldn't get the order out because the container was tied up. Then on Monday, the guys come back to work, but those ports are so efficient. When they come back to work, it always takes a place to catch up. So I think it was like maybe Tuesday or something when they finally managed to get it out of the facility to ship it to the warehouse. Then they had what is called in shipping company terms a mechanical failure, which means the truck broke down. So all the Goodman folks are sitting by the side of the road. So then they go and fix, no, this is all true. Then they go and fix that. They finally get it in, and we finally have our Goodman books. Meanwhile, I had to write a check for $1,600 in demurrage charges, which is still being contested because we never got a notification that it was over there in the first place. It really feels like there's some curse of Goodman.
The good news is also radioactive now.
So then we unpacked it all, and the printer had shipped what they could ship at the point in time when they could fill up a container, right? So, what I'd hoped was it'd be some like nice, organized delivery where we could fill a lot of the orders. And a lot of the folks in the Grim Tooth project ordered like, the hardcover and the module, or the soft cover version, and the leather cover version or something like that. We essentially could fill about 25% of the orders for US and Canada based on what was there. And the trouble is, if you start filling orders, you fill 25%. You got to keep really good notes for when the rest of the shipment arrives a month later. Because if you're not keeping really good notes and everybody's not really paying attention, you can wind up double shipping or accidentally not shipping some of the original stuff that was part of that first 25%. So we made the decision to actually just hold it all. The next shipment is, so I'm really careful about dates, right? Because I give a date, and then really the day after I get 400 customer emails. They're like, you said this date. So there is a date that is in the very near future when the next container is supposed to arrive, and we'll have the rest of the books. Once we have that container, we can then fill 100% of all the US and Canadian orders. And fingers crossed that this container does not have some of the incidents that affected the last. So anyway, by roughly mid to late March, all the Grim Tooth orders for US and Canadian backers should be shipping. All the orders for European, UK, Australia, and New Zealand are shipped. They're actually good. Retailers got theirs. We have it in our facility waiting for mail order. We're not going to turn on the mail order until the Kickstarter backers get theirs. Anyway, if you back this Kickstarter, hopefully in about 3 to 4 weeks, you should finally get your order. Any questions on that?
I just got a ordained. Would you like me to cast a loss?
Yes, please. Yes, we need it. I'll get you the container number after this. Anyway, so that all said, here's the actual copy of it, just to show you guys what you're getting. This is the leather edition. It actually weighs close to 9 pounds.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's crazy. So this is probably the happiest of them all. You get your custom cover.
It should be filled with spiders.
Actually, this is. Should I break this real quick? Okay, this sounds good. That's all right.
NRFC.
Right. Yes. So I'll probably just leave it in the shrink wrap so we can sell this later on. But yeah, this is the leather box. It has a suitcase. It has inside the book with a custom dust jacket. As you can see, it's like 2.5 inches wide. And so this is the version that has the extra 160 pages. They say it has all 7 groups, which is pretty cool. So if you back this, thank you for your patience. You should have it soon. We're almost there.
And it was the 1d6 and damage.
Yes, possibly more. So let's set this back here. So other Kickstarter updates, Epsilon City's coming all well. All the materials written. Mr. James M. Ward is an amazing professional. He's going to talk to us in a little bit, not yet. But among other things, the guy had all sorts of things happen to him and still managed to deliver his manuscripts almost on time, which was incredible.
The map was the reason I was late.
So it's pretty incredible. So none of this is Jim's fault. But we're working through, I mean, the project, as usual, grew with the scope. I'm rethinking how to do these Kickstarters because I put a date that's always based on the original scope, and we clear all these stretch goals and it works. So I'm going to start just putting longer dates, working to essentially build in the expectations, and we're going to have some stretch goals achieved. But in the meantime, Epsilon City's going along well. It's all written. Most of the maps are done. The editing is in various stages of progress, almost complete. You guys, if you backed it, you should have gotten a PDF about a week ago, which had 2 of the standalone adventures, just to give you something that's standalone you can start working with. If you didn't get that in your backer, just message us on Kickstarter, we'll get it for you. And it's on track. Home for JCon, probably send it to the printer soon. It's going along. Last one is DCC RPGs, the 4th printing. So thanks you guys for the amazing support. It was incredible. So we're reprinting it for the 4th time, which is awesome. I'm adding in a bunch of modules, which you guys can get back to. You're getting like 6 adventures or maybe 7 for free, which is awesome. And that's at the printer. So the way that works is they have it right now. They go over all the files. They come back and tell us there's a problem. At this point, it looks like all the files are clean. They'll get back to me hopefully within about a week with a schedule where they actually say, you know, you're produced by this date, you should have this date, etc. And once I have that schedule, I'll be able to post it every day. The longshoreman strikes and everything else. But I brought something to show you guys.
The PDF of that was great.
Oh, great.
It was awesome.
Cool.
The new art.
Yeah, Doug Novak's is over there. He did an amazing job. Thanks, Doug. The fun thing about the way that works and the way Doug works is it started with, I was like, hey, I see some white space in like, you know, these 12 pages, you know, I'm like, you know, could you come up with something cool? And I got back like 72 illustrations. Because Doug went through the whole book, and between him and Stephen Poe, literally filled in every available white space. Yeah, it's amazing. So there's a lot of art to begin with. Now there's even more, so I'll let you know. But I have here just something to show you guys. This is like the behind the curtain as to how it works. But we're doing a gold foil edition, sorry, a silver foil edition. One is printed on sort of faux leather, it's kind of like a surface. One is printed on real leather. But the way the printer works is they send me these fake covers. So I have these covers where they tested out certain materials and certain foil. Certain foil. There's actually many different shades of silver foil, which you may not realize. There's another shade of silver foil. And these are basically what you would, when you print a book, this is the actual, this is what it looks like before they find it. So I had them do like a crocodile actually, which is pretty cool. But the foil actually is all crackly, so it wouldn't work with the foil, which is why you do the tests. So the final version will be, actually this, where's the shiny silver? That's the shiny silver. So for the shiny silver on this material for the faux leather, so the silver foil, and that shiny silver on this material for the leather edition. This is actually leather. Anyway, now you want to see this. And what we're going to do at the end of this, I got some raffle tickets, because I always have all these samples, which they basically go into my garage. So I think you guys might think it's more exciting. So at the end, come by, pick up a raffle ticket tomorrow at 10 a.m. I think we said at the booth, we'll raffle these off, and somebody will watch some of these. We'll probably do 4 people.
Goodman Games is not up.
There you go. Yes.
Bummer.
Thanks, Jim.
Yes.
You'll have to steal one, bro.
Wanted to play with the big boys.
Yeah, I think so.
He's not missing that.
What time's the game start? So I think the viewers hall actually opens at 9. So maybe we should do this at like right after 9 o'clock. The viewers hall. Is that a good idea? That's a good call. Okay. So update 9 o'clock. The viewers hall. Get a raffle ticket. This thing. And yes, you have to be present.
So think about that when you're thinking about the sewage.
Must not be present for that.
I got a couple more things to show you guys. Get all this stuff out of the way. Now the road crew is up and running this year. Brendan LaSalle is heading that up. Last year, we basically ran out of swag, which is kind of a bummer. So if you participated a lot last year, shoot us an email. We have these really cool beer steins we printed up just for the folks who did it last year. And these swag we ran out. But I'm just going to show off some of the stuff we have in no particular order. This is the order I'm grabbing it out of the box. This is not the order of if you play one game and get this quicker. But one of the prizes is we actually printed up real leather dice bags for the judges. So the judges run enough games get one of these. This is somewhere there. Satin, yeah, players get a cheap version. Satin dice bag for the players. We have all sorts of bookmarks this year. Anyways, this is like sign up gift. Oh yeah, we have bookmarks for X-Crawl and Metamorphosis this out as well. So if you're finding
Anime one is way cool.
it is cool, isn't it? Yeah. Any game you run plus generic monster alphabet plus DCC RPG. The DCC one, if you look at these, they're nice and shiny. The DCC one is not shiny because on the back you have a miniature character sheet, so you can write on it if you like. We have this year's belt buckle, which is awesome. More Doug art. There's sort of the Ramhorn Demon Skull, which was cool. Yeah. We have the official notebook. If you want to take notes. The official pencil. The official judge's pen, which is actually a really nice pen. Yeah, so players get very tiny cheap buttons, and judges get fancy closeted buttons. Yeah, we got dice, lots of dice, with like DCC icons. So this is actually one of my favorites, the character sheet pads. So 4 of 0 level character sheets on yellow paper, which is cool. And then the other really cool thing, which I got on the stack here, and this is early on in the rewards because it's just fun. But you get the player folio, so you open this sucker up, stick your character sheets on the inside.
It's not coming with just yellow art.
Art not included. Has some reference tables. And if you don't realize that these little scrolls in the back, when we finally get around to printing up the sticker sheet, will be for stickers, and there's going to be a sticker sheet that has all the covers of DCC modules. So as your players, this is for players, as your players play through the modules, they can put the sticker on and say, hey, I played the Sailor Moon Throw Sea or whatever. So you kind of rack up which games you actually play, which is cool. And then if you backed Epsilon City, you may have noticed that we're showing off our fancy Epsilon City bracelets. So they're available for Epsilon backers. Last couple things is we have more dice sets coming soon. The dice sets are great. People love them, and they keep selling out. So we have the multicolored one, which is the Cesarcon dice set that was launched with the DCC Kickstarter. We'll eventually have more of those for people outside that Kickstarter. We have Chuck's Lucky Dice, which are green with gold carded right, which would be, have Chuck. There's his dice. And then we have Cesarcon's extra spatial angularities, which will be based around the Cesarcon. They're actually purple with, I believe, was silver foil or silver ink for the dice. They look really cool. The last couple of things that are coming. So I worked a lot with Errol Otis over the years. He actually did the cover art for DCC number 3 way back when we were up to 9. So he's been working with these games off and on for years. He's been really busy, but we asked him to paint something for a DCC RPG. So we'll find over there. And this is very much was like, Errol, what do you want to paint? He's like, I know. We just kind of let it roll with it. Sometimes the process is a writer writes something and the artist illustrates it. This process was the artist did whatever he wanted. And then Michael Curtis here has the enviable task of coming up with an adventure worthy of his art.
Yes.
So when you get a chance after the seminar, come down and look. It's crazy in a good way. And there's actually some characters in the lower right-hand corner where they're sort of pointing and their mouths are open. So we might have a, capture these picture contest. We're discussing what they're saying. But it's an awesome image. That'll be the cover for an upcoming DCC module. Probably later in the year or next year. And once we finally get around to shipping Grimtooth, you guys are all satisfied with your books. Steve Crompton is actually now working on the 8th Grimtooth book, which will be called Grimtooth's Traps Away. Goodman Games will publish that down the road. The guy is like, if you ever met Steve, he's the guy who created Grimtooth, and he is just like wild. Like there's ideas flowing constantly. Just conversations with him are just like an idea for him. And he has all these cool ideas for continuing this and sort of roll Grimtooth. So that's what we're absolutely
Hopefully that book isn't.
right. So hopefully not. Though it will announce a release date that's like 2019, and we won't be satisfied with it. So now, I was going to ask Doug to come up, Mr. Doug Kovacs, artist extraordinaire, just talk about some of the stuff he's working on. This is the property spot. Like us to ask him, or do you want to take him from the audience? That'd be good. That'd be great, yeah. That counts up again.
It's like a wish.
Okay, so This is going to be, I think it's number 90 in the sequence, but it's The Dread God Outcast Star. It's by Daniel J. Bishop. Yeah, it's a great adventure. It actually ties into Punjar loosely and then sort of goes from there. That's really sweet.
So, I understand these are 11 by 14. How far away are you from it? East. It's kind of coming over to the you guys can't see it. It's green and red. It's magical, right? More interesting thing here. So I'll have these in my booth there, and obviously here. The second thing here is this is the cover pencil for because I'm doing the cover. And then that's the back cover there. The spine. It's a good question. It's in the most important stuff. So anyway, these are the work in progress. It's mostly just underpainting on these guys now. So it's probably not going to actually be and this is the underpinning of the front. This is expanding a little bit the story that we saw on Wizard cover. That wizard is here. And she is a character that you all know and love her, and there's many things in there.
Can we make that one of our 2 questions?
That was a question. Yes, no.
No.
So, okay. Is that enough for me? One more question from the peanut gallery. Anybody? Ready?
Spine on that side.
Oh, I found the spine. So, I got a question for Joe. Do we know how big the animal's going to be?
I don't find that out until the guy, the printer.
So this might not be supposed to be. It's the same proportions as all the other spines, but yeah, actually. Well, anybody who's ever seen the original spine wizard, he's a lot thinner in real life and he appears to be on the book. Because the book became bigger and then they had to stretch him out. There's this new thing. It's called Photoshop. You can take a painting and just make it bigger or smaller.
Even as an artist, I'm curious. These oils, watercolors, or
I'm going to point out a couple things.
Translating for Doug Kovacs,
Yes.
Russell Goodman.
This guy. This is awesome. This cover has been an ongoing, we'll call it a debate between me and Doug for close to 3 years. Remember the, you guys remember the,
We were originally going to do something similar.
yeah. So there's, if you guys remember Star Wars from the 70s, one of the classic images, they have all these great montages, right? There's always these scenes of like Luke Skywalker with his lightsaber and some machine gun, and Darth Vader's looming in the back, and there's like spaceships flying around. Like I love that montage art, and it's not something, you don't really see that very much at all these days, but especially never on game covers. So that was the original request, was to do some sort of montage like that. That was the publisher's request. Then the artist hated that request. Yeah. Right, so
when you see a montage of Star Wars, it's got that painting was probably done bigger than 14. And there was a movie that they could just take a photo of the copy. I'm making all this shit up. So, yeah, it's a great idea, but you have no idea what goes into it.
Right. That's a Cliff Notes version of our conversation for the last 2 years. So where we ended up was about sort of a pseudo montage. It's still a really, it's not that Star Wars design where they always have the lightsaber that's the same and so on. But it's essentially 3 of the core characters in sort of a, it's kind of a montage with the demons fall behind and certain clues and artifacts below, and it was great. Good job, Doug.
Doug is saying you need to start doing movie.
Is that what that was? Yeah, we're good.
2 out of 2 chins.
Now, is that going to be the Gen Con?
Yeah, so for Gen Con, we're still going to have a program guide just because there's always plenty of stuff to do. The goal is to have the annual come out hopefully by Gen Con. It's been written, a lot of the materials have been stuff that has been around for a while, and the third-party publishers have done such a great job of filling in some of the gaps that my original table of contents is basically not needed because a lot of the stuff was out there. So some of the original material that still makes sense is in there, some of it's newly commissioned or newly designed. It turned out great. It's going to be sort of a potpourri of lots of different articles that expand on it. If you guys ever played Warhammer 40,000, anybody ever played Warhammer 40,000 back in the 80s? So the very first supplement for Warhammer 40,000 was called Chapter Approved, and it was this collection of all the White Dwarf articles. It was awesome.
It was all new, and then they put snippets in White Dwarf, but it is the rarest of the original Road Trader books to find because they did small print rather than old art. But it was all esoteric stuff that has all been retconned out.
Yeah, and I actually had that book, and I foolishly sold it in college, but I didn't have any money. Now, like, years later, I'm like, God, I wish I still had it, but it's so expensive on eBay. Anyway, it's an amazing book, and that's actually what I want the game to feel like. All these really cool articles that just kind of expand your concept of the world and the game system and so on. It's really cool. So, anyway, hopefully we'll have that out by Gen Con. All right, anything else on products or art or stuff like that? Yes, Jim.
Have you ever thought about letting Doug loose to do a painting and doing the montage?
More to me.
No, but I mean, I think Doug makes a great point. The montage painting is a large painting. I'm not trying to take a chunk of Doug's time away, but it would be a lot of fun to see the Doug painting that's done first, and then the module is wrapped around that.
Actually, so the
Damn screen.
exactly the damn screen. So the judges' screen that we did for Free RPG Day last year, not coming out. That was all the whole concept of the art, the design. All we talked about was visual from far away and make sense of those. So the idea that we still need to get around to was that we would have a contest to write modules that tie into those 3 panels because each of them is a doorway of sorts with a basic roll around it. We should look at that.
Well, there we go.
Lucky mine.
All right.
So we'll eventually get around to write a module, or having a contest to write a module based on the instant art. It sounds like we'll do something else soon. All right.
What's the date on that, Joe?
Contest.
Well, that'll be a Kickstarter.
Any chance of us getting a ACC lot collection?
Go with the blacklight poster.
Right, you gotta have it. I don't know if they make those private labels, but I'll look into that.
They do.
Well,
Don't ask me how I know that.
I Jim.
weird. Coming to
I
your house.
suggested something else made out of glass a couple of years ago and you shot that idea. That was to go along with the blacklight post. Tobacco accessories.
Any other questions? All right, well, guys, next thing I wanted to talk about was the 40th anniversary. The year is currently 2016, for those not aware. And it is 40 years after the first release of Metamorphosis Alpha, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. But Mr. James M. Ward, better known as Jim Ward, is here, and I wanted him to come up and talk to us about the specs. Come on up, Jim.
Give me 11 minutes to get done this stuff.
Keep applauding. That's it.
Here we all are.
Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to thank Joseph and his crew
terrific.
The writer's pretty good.
Oftentimes, yeah, the stuff I write is pretty good, but oftentimes the stuff your other writers are writing is better than my stuff. So,
How's it feel to have a 40th anniversary for a game you wrote?
you know, it's kind of amazing, actually. I really didn't realize it until we got like into the second month that we'd hit that anniversary date of 40 years. There isn't a lot of games out there that have lasted 40 years, so that's pretty cool. And the stuff we're putting out right now is pretty exciting. Except for the fact that everybody and their mother has a red command band. It was supposed to be the rarest band. I bet I've seen 10 people with it. And they keep putting it in my face. Have you got one of these, Jim?
Maybe our randomization algorithm was off.
Maybe. I think so. But the bands are great. Michael and I are letting people use them in the MA games that they play. So that's kind of a fun idea. And we've got lots of great stuff coming up.
Yeah.
I think the sales were really good last year. And I thank you for the 9 trips to McDonald's that you paid for with my royalties. Maybe I'll start going to Culver's this year.
You know, those butter burgers are pretty tasty.
Exactly. So I think one of the spirits of MA that you guys are capturing perfectly is the exploration aspect of it. You know, you're going out there and you're kind of putting your head in many nooses. Surviving is a big deal, and I think that comes through in all the products that we're making. So that's just wonderful. I've gotten several Facebook fans. There's an MA page on Facebook. They've written me saying, "Hey, I played in this and I died right away. I'm looking forward to playing in it again." I just appreciate that so much because, you know, so many times with like D&D games, you hear how the guy lost his character and he doesn't want to play D&D ever again. And you know, in today's climate, the big boys, they don't want you to kill characters. The big boys not to kill characters. I know. That's certainly not true. Metamorphosis is helpful, I'll tell you. So,
You were here in this building for the Gen Con that was hosted here.
yes.
I think 78,
77.
76.
Yes.
And that was when I was still the Playboy Club.
I did 100-man Metamorphosis Alpha game.
What?
Yeah. I was crazy in those days, let me assure you. So I painted up miniatures so every player had, because we did robots as characters, every player had a painted miniature by Jim Ward. And I know.
How much was that ticket?
It took a while. No, it was just a regular ticket. So we had 10 TSR judges, and we did 100-man. I met a couple guys that have been fast good friends ever since. So we would do stuff like that all the time for MA in the beginning. But after a while, we just didn't have time.
Do you remember how many casualties that game?
Oh, most of them died. Yeah, most of them got turned into scrap.
Right.
Because that just happens. But you know, Gary Gygax and his group, they played him a game for 40 years, and Gary only died once that entire time.
Really?
Yeah.
So you told me the story of how you met Gary, and I know some people may have read that. Do you mind telling me how you met Gary?
It's my favorite story to tell. So young Jim Ward is just out of college. So he's substitute teaching in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. But every Tuesday, he goes over to the pipe and smoke shop over in Lake Geneva because that's when they get their new books. And so they get their,
That's why you went to the pipe and smoke shop?
yes, exactly. Because I don't use a pipe and I don't smoke. Yes. But anyway, they had great fantasy and science fiction. So every Tuesday I would go over and I'd buy a couple books. And that was like the only expenditure because I had a wife and 2 kids. So money was slim, but I always had enough money for a couple of paperbacks. So I'm in there and I'm picking out books, and I'm picking out Elsberg, the James Conan, and I'm picking out a Fritz Leiber book. And so I get down to the end of the row and I've got 7 books. And this weird biker dude is by me, and he gets down to the end of the same row, and we have the exact 7 books in our hands. And so we looked at it, we got laughing about it, and he said he had a game where you can play Conan the Barbarian and fight Set. And something clicked in my brain. I was hooked like a fish. So I went over to his house, and I got introduced to his lovely wife, who looked like 20 years younger than him. and his gorgeous kids, and Ernie Gygax was one of the players in the game, and I learned how to play D&D as a wizard character, and I was just the luckiest guy in the world to learn how to play the game at 74. He was just selling his first 1,000 Braun box sets, and I have my Braun box set, but I don't know where it is in my house. and so we learned how to play the game, and I was a big science fiction fan. So I go to Gary, you absolutely have to do a science fiction version of D&D. And that guy, not knowing if I had any talent whatsoever, turns to me and says, Jim, you know, I don't have the time to write this. Why don't you give it a try? And so Metamorphosis was born 6 months later. So he was just the nicest guy to me then. After a few years, we had our differences, but then he just helped me out, and I wrote the Metamorphosis alpha one. And the rest is kind of interesting history. I've worked for TSR for 21 years until the evil Empire Queen took rule. And then I decided I didn't want to work with them anymore.
So you ended up being the vice president of
Production. Yeah, so I was responsible for their 4 best years. I got us up to $42 million.
pretty good
Well,
at.
I was pretty impressed. So, yeah.
That's at least 12 trips to McDonald's.
I never went to McDonald's in those days. When I put my 3 sons through college and just wrote checks for the expense. So those were good times. TSR was a really decent one. I mean, it was the #1 company, and we, unfortunately for us, of course, we put SPI as a war game company out of business, but D&D because of D&D. And then Wizards comes along and has a game that you can play in 20 minutes instead of 4 hours. It's also out of business.
It's okay, there's still a lot of bands out there.
There is, that's the hope, you know, and I'm writing a bunch of stuff with you, which I really appreciate. There's some other companies that do stuff.
Tell me about your idea. Here's an idea for the next performances out front. We're talking about next year. Summarize to this, 2 of course and space.
Okay, so let's find out, first of all, yeah, really, did anybody buy the big heart, yeah, no, did anybody buy the big heart bump book? Raise your hand if you bought the big heart bump book.
Thanks, guys.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. So, no one has ever been in the control cabin of the Starship Board because the areas leading up to it are deadly filled with horrible things that kill you off instantly. You have to have a command ring to even get close to the cabin. And there's only 3 command rings. And so that's the adventure for tomorrow, actually, is going to Epsilon City and going into the biggest building, the hotel board, to find the command ring that everybody knows is in there. So you have what?
Yeah, what inspired his cool ideas for that adventure is what inspired this art. So this would be the captain's chair.
That's the captain's chair with the captain in it. Yeah, I wore that myself. So that's the idea the idea for next year is to make this adventure that is 99% impossible to succeed in. And everybody's going to hear that. And it's just like the Tomb of Horrors. Everybody knows, if you're a fan of D&D, that if you start walking into Tomb of Horrors, you're in big trouble. And so that's the idea here. It's going to be very difficult to get in and just get into the control area, let alone anything else. Gary and his group were the only group I've ever played with that actually wanted to put the ship back on course. They actually wanted to get it back to the planet that it was supposed to go to in 30 years. And the only way to do that is to get in that control cabin, sit in those 6 chairs, and press some buttons.
We know how that works so well.
So I think I can do it in a 96-pager, but if Joseph says, I'm sorry, Jim, we need something much bigger for the Kickstarter, I'll make it much bigger. And I'll just do what I'm told, which is what I usually do with Joseph.
Actually, I love the idea of making it narrow because we definitely experience some projects. What do they call it? Scope creep?
Yes,
So
agreed.
we'll keep it focused.
Yes. But I try very hard to hit my deadlines because I only missed 1 this year. Yeah, I know. Getting heart attacks really kind of slows you down just a little bit.
You still only missed it by a couple days.
Well, and that's because of the mapper. Epsilon City, who was the mapper?
Well, if we're going to blame him, let's not do it.
Okay, that's
He did
fine.
do an amazing job. It took a little longer.
He
than
did
we thought.
an amazing job. I gave him a very rough sketch of what the city looked like. Because lots of people have gone to the city, but I've never had a decent map. And this guy made a my deadline. I needed it by December 1st, and I didn't get it anywhere near as fast.
And I have to say, for those of you who want to know what Jim's map sketches look like,
Yeah, they're awful.
if you look at the deluxe hardcover, it has in the last 8 pages
Oh.
his original map sketch. And you may find that it would take the artist a little time to interpret that. He made it a beautiful
Joseph
work.
is so mean to me. So I made the mistake of telling him that I had the original playtest notes that I had to submit to Gary and Brian for them to do it. And he says, "Oh, I gotta have that in the book." And I said, "No, I look like a kindergartner in those things, and my spelling is awful." He says, No, Jim, I really must have it." He insisted. And I give him these things. Oh, I'm so embarrassed when it came out. I see a million misspelled words. I see maps that a kindergartner could make better.
Actually, it's amazing how many people have told me that inspired them, because
Really?
they look at the finished product and they think they have to do something like that to get into the game. But they realize that they can, anybody can do this shit.
Yeah.
Let them know that!
No, but really, you don't have to be a master mapper. You know, like it's the ideas that come forward through notes, and that produces all this great work. A number of people told me they make them realize that they feel like that their work, it doesn't have to be beautifully illustrated and so on from the very beginning.
Yeah, I'd probably set the industry back 20 years by showing those maps to people. Because anybody could think they could do any stupid map and make it work. Oh, jeez. So, Epsilon City, a lot of good products. Michael over there and Jim here, great writing from these guys. The idea, I had the idea for years, but people have been playing in and out of Epsilon City for the 4 years. Basically, the Wolfoids captured it. And Gary would make attacks on it all the time, but the Wolfoids are pretty powerful. And so he'd get repulsed, but would irritate the heck out of him. 2 times he tossed nukes at the city. But I didn't let him blow it up, because it was my city, what the heck? I'm going to blow some other things up on the ship, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Gary had a big tribe called the Vigilants, and it was a mix of humans and mutants, and it was on one level, he kind of took over them. Gary had a tendency to take over things, no matter what you do. So, but yeah, we had lots of fun. Like I said, he only died once the entire time.
That's awesome.
And that's why he kept insisting that I put total mutation in the book. And I didn't want to put total healing in the book as a mutation. I didn't think it was a good idea, but Gary did. So we actually put it in the book just to be nice to Gary's memory.
That's great.
Yeah. So did we hit all the high spots, Joseph?
We hit all the high spots, yeah. So guys, Epsilon City will be awesome. We'll finally finish it and published. And next year we'll probably have this journey to the captain's quarters.
Yes, whatever we're going to call it. We haven't got a good name yet, but I'm sure we'll think of something. You're warned that it's an impossible task already. You know, with mutations, you're going to work almost nothing, really.
So there you go. Cool, thanks.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Normally I'd stay and listen to the wonderful spiel, but I have to go run my all-girl again.
You have a tight deadline for getting out of
Okay. You just want to sit in the chair.
Let's get some
Oh, yeah, right.
So guys, we're going to have a couple more conversation points to get onto the Kickstarter announcement. So, Jim Lamblinger is going to talk about Unicorn Classics, and Mike's going to talk about Lakemark, and Alan will do the discussion next. So, Jim, why don't you tell us about Unicorn Classics?
Well, Unicron Classics, that's the Kickstarter question I get about 8 times a day on Facebook. And the big news is that Kickstarter went live a week ago. You all missed it. Joke. It raised $8. No, I mean, it's getting a lot of love and attention so that it will be a proper sister product to the DC Center, which I really appreciate.
Oh, all right, I can do that real quick.
I asked for DACO to back as an editor because I knew it needed more service and grammar and spelling and that it needed that, and DACO completed those edits. So now it goes to layout and arts and the fantastic thing is some stalwart volunteers amongst the group, Callahan, Steve Dufresne, Dave Beatty, that are actually running play tests that I don't have anything to do. The reports are all coming back as good sign. This is what I was thinking about, because I love game design and mechanic strategies. Mike and I are doing very similar things in completely different ways, because in adapting for this library, Michael has taken the DCC rules and gotten to monkey with some of the core mechanics and changes that it works in the new one, right? And I took almost the exact opposite approach with the Pro Classics, so that the exact same DCC rules are mimicked in the post-apocalypse. So everything, patron demons and gods, patron AIs, spells, wetware programs, and mutations that work like spell checks. And I think that's interesting. I think that's interesting. Yeah. How you to adapt the rules to different genres with completely separate strategies.
Well, I mean, the benefit of when Joseph was laying out the DCC is that you went back to the event 10 and you wanted to build something that was reflective of all that. And the benefit is that since we're working with library here and it's not direct, an exam, but you're still working with the Jack Kirby and the
Jack Kirby.
right, yeah, exactly. That sort of stuff. So we have the elemental framework, which is easily adaptable to that sort of material. So it's loosey-goosey. That and the swinginess of DCC, the inherent, anything from the big demonstration I give is that anytime somebody's playing a wizard for the first time, you have magic missile. All right, so you make a spell check roll. Maybe you get anything from the one hit die with magic missile, which we call tragic missile, to you turn into Uzi the living machine gun. So yeah, so that's I think it's the perfect game system to be doing.
Yeah, not to suck up to the boss, but it is a tribute to the core rules. The way those were structured was cheap.
And I know the third party independents have also been going for that too. So I mean, things have been adapted to like Crazy Carnivals or
magic-based block weapons.
Right.
So you are, if all goes well, the adventure you're working on will end up for your adventure.
Yes. Yeah, I can announce that. Yeah, okay, yeah.
No!
I'm glad, I had to keep it all compartmentalized. Yeah, I'm actually working on a new Pro Classics adventure. We had the preview rules published into the Gen Con Guide, and there'll be an adventure module that will be released as part of the print Free RPG Day this year. There's a few games.
And we're working our way through, the big milestone you have to have is an edited manuscript, so we're past that milestone, which is great. Jim's just taking the final pass as the author, just making sure there's consistency. Author's off lunch, a couple of things once it's back. But we're at an important milestone now, which is we have a manuscript to work with. We're going to start the layout and the art and what's in front of all.
We're in agreement on not adding the
I said, sure, you can take a look at the edited manuscript. I didn't realize you wanted to add a lot more. But yeah, no, Jim did an amazing job. It's a great game. It's fun to play. It'll be awesome to release. It's great. There's already a ton of positive buzz because it's just a fun game, which is great.
And everybody that's helped play test it and shown it to me, I really appreciate that, especially my home group of user those two, which are actually present in the already. They did all the journeyman work and lost all the characters, so you didn't have to.
It's awesome. And Mike, why don't you tell them how things are going with Lake Farm?
All right. So 2 years ago, come Gen Con, we had a little meeting. Not Scotty, but one of the little side places in Indianapolis. And at the time, it was Joseph and I and Brendan LaSalle and Kovacs and Harley Stroh. And at that point, we started talking about doing Nightmare for DCC. And we had dinner, we were bandying some ideas around, and it was how it was going to be, this great project we're all looking forward to, working together, get a chance to, like Harley and Brendan and I coming up with writing, and then, Joseph overseeing us all, and Doug coming with, his traditional art and everything. And somewhere along the lines, it became, I realized that I knew the most about Fritz Leiber, so it became Mike Curtis's Fritz Leiber's Light Bar. So, needless to say, I took over lead writer on the project, and Doug and I have been working, for the last, I guess, the first kind of year last year was the previews, the 3 previews stuff, and we were kind of fleshing things out, and we were running the play tests and what have you. But now we are pushing toward the final phase. We have, when all is said and done, we're looking at a box set. So we're going to have 3 booklets in it, and it's going to be everything you need to get a DCC Landmark campaign up and running. So it will have basically the equivalent of the Player's Guide, which is a book that will contain just optional rules for those of you who want to play DCC in the Fritz Leiber style. So that is out there now and is being play tested. Not only just at conventions, but some people have pitched in and are helping out doing that. Some of them are nodding vigorously at the audience right now. Currently, we also have the Judge's Guide to Naywan and Langmars being put together right now. Actually, once I get home, that's the next thing I finish up. And then the last thing is the Langmar City book. That is about 3/4 of the way done. So my plan is to have everything together and submitted by the end of March. And then from there, assuming the wheels don't fall off, which I don't think I don't think it will because we're going to play test this thing down to the ground, then it moves on to editing. And we have Joe has the art suggestions now, so we have the art process is slowly working on the screens and everything. Obviously, MCC is probably further along the process, so those of you who are betting which might be the next Kickstarter, place your bets accordingly. But the goal, I think the goal is to have,
I'd love to have it up at the end of the year if that's
Right.
possible. I don't know if it's
Right.
possible.
You say it rather than I
Yeah,
do.
we'll see, but it'd be great.
But in addition, it looks like the free RPG release this year will be a two-parter. One part will be new all classics, and the other part will be a new adventure for DCC Langford. Have everybody's itch scratched by hopefully by Christmas time, and then it's just going to be nothing but Mutant Crawl, Fafford on the Purple Planet, Shutter Mountains, Carnival of the Damned, Black Powder, Black Magic, and eventually the Wool Book will become superfluous. So nobody will be running vanilla DCC, after a while.
So Langmar's going to be awesome. Mutant Crawl Classics is going to be awesome. Yeah, but they're great. And you guys know we tend to announce stuff that it takes us 2 years to actually produce it. In part because we spend a lot of time trying to get it right. So I think both of these want to have enough time spent on it. It'll be awesome.
Right, that's the other thing Jim and I have in common with working on these is we're very dedicated to doing this right. And we wanted this, because it's really easy to do a Gamma World hack, DCC, or to be, the 5th company to attempt, to adapt Langmar to a role-playing system and not really do it correctly. So we're all dedicated to putting out something that, I'm personally happy with my name on it. So.
And Mike here is a real diehard. There's one guy to write a Langmar project, it's him. Tell me what you told me about how many times you've read the entire series.
Well, all right, so I've read the entire series twice. I read it once in the order that Fritz Leiber originally published all the stories. And then when I got done that back, I went back to the beginning and read them how they were collected in the anthology series and read them that way. And then when it was time to do the Langmar City book, well, I went back and I started rereading all the stories that take place in and around Langmar again to make sure I got everything pitch perfect. So we're about 2.75 times through the series in the last year and a half. So
Which is insane. Most people take several years to read the Langmar series, so Mike's read it almost 3 times.
Longer than it takes to read 32 issues. Maybe that's why.
Really good. Cool. So any questions from you guys on Langmar or Mutant Crawl Classics?
Hang on, the museum at the end of time. Which I'm sure you're familiar with.
and the working title right now is Dead Men and Finger Bones.
So Langmar's going to be a box set, but Mutant Crawl Classics is going to be a book.
Yeah, that's the idea. MCC will probably be a hardcover. Langmar really needs maps.
Yeah.
It's got maps. So, format TVD, but some sort of poster match of maps or something where it makes a lot of sense in the box set.
And the other thing is that we wanted it so that the optional rules for Langmar would be a separate booklet, so you can decide, so that for a player, you can, I have my DCC rulebook and I have my booklet of optional rules, and that's all I need on my side of things. So it definitely, rather than have 2 huge booklets if you're just playing character.
Is there the potential for if it goes via Kickstarter, that we could see stretch goals and see it become something like Castle Whitewater?
No.
700 pages, you mean?
No, but there's various areas like Rhine Isle and so on.
Right. Basically, the idea that we have discussed on this is that the initial box set will be everything you need to kick off the Langmore campaign. So it will be very centered upon the city of Langmore and the environs around that. And then from there, we will start, the subsequent releases will kind of spiral around that area. Like the next one might be Ilfmar, it might be an Ilfmar book, or Quarmal book. I really want to do Quarmal because it's like a mega dungeon political campaign thing. I mean, that in itself could be a box set, but eventually kind of spiral around and, cover the eastern lands, or like, the Mingle Steppes, or the forests and such. So the idea is that, the campaign could begin in Langmar itself, because as Slaughter says, all adventures begin and end in Langmar. And then as the characters kind of, we've been adventuring in the city for a little while, let's see what's out there. I already have an adventure that I've been running, which is taking place in Ilfmar. So, so we're already kind of laying the groundwork to the foundations to expand beyond the city. And
But more the DCC model, when additional content comes in adventure models rather than splat ones.
right. So,
Yeah, will the box set include all of the content that was released in the previous releases, or are those separate?
From day one, I have been very vocal just because that's the question I got asked a lot. The material that is in the 3 adventures, some of it will appear in the box set, some of it will not. For example, through Ningal's Cave, the first one that came out, it doesn't really make sense to reprint that in the box set. So, however, when we get around to doing, say, Ilfmar, we may include some of that material about Ningal's Cave, maybe expand a little bit, because that fits better with the Ilfmar. Again, the Patrons of Langmar has the Rat God in it. We may not include that in the initial box set, since it is very Langmar City centric. However, in the Ilfmar set, in the potential Ilfmar supplement adventure, we will probably reprint some of the Patron, with the initial spells on top of that. Also because the rules have been evolving and stuff, what have you. In some cases, it may make sense to do certain things and kind of revise things to do things a little better and make sure it works with the city with the new material. So it will not be rendered obsolete. So if you really want to say, I really want to use the Rat God, well, we have patrons of Langmar now. Otherwise, you make up stuff to hold yourself over, or wait till the Ilfmar sort of thing. So.
Actually, to answer that slightly different, eventually all that material will be in some sort of like product or thing.
Right. But
when we first did those, we had not yet decided on the clear vision for what the box set would continue. It was very much more focused.
I know, I have a very clear vision.
Oh, sorry. Lights in this here. More questions?
So in the Langmar books, there's this constant metaphysical debate going back and forth throughout all the books. Did that find any approaches or any mechanics or any
what do you mean by the metaphysical?
So, debating about, are these stars in the sky jewels? Or they
Well, I mean, I do some discussion about the cosmology of Niwan in the judges set. We don't set anything firmly in stone because Liber never did, and it really is leave it up if you want to be a world bubble. I mean, the problem, but one of the challenges of trying to adapt Liber to any sort of concrete campaign setting is Fritz wrote that story literally was written. Those were stories written over a 50-year period, and I mean he was writing them his entire life. So there's actually direct contradictions, and so you have to kind of you can't give a direct answer. So you kind of have to play both sides of the field and leave it up to the individual judges. And in fact, the Langmar City itself, the book that we're envisioning the book is going to come out, it is not so much going to be. We want to avoid this is the warehouse district. There are many warehouses in the warehouse district. We don't want it to be something like, I have to read this book and I have to memorize it. It's going to be an at-the-table reference. So the idea is like, okay, the characters are they're in the noble quarter of this game, and they're up to shenanigans. I need a quick noble. All right, open up, roll 3 dice. Or you have this, this fat lady, what's her name? And she has an interest in, matching up people, and she lives in this quarter, and this is her opinion on adventurers. Or, hijinks are going on the docks. What happened? A crane falls and almost kills the character. Was this an accident, or was it one of their enemies behind it? So, we're trying to really make this stuff. We're trying to feed the creativity of the judges and the players rather than saying this is the way, because unfortunately we don't have speed with that. We can't ask for what he intended and stuff. So I've done my best to provide concrete information when there was a definite concrete stuff to work with, but not with everything.
We're all moved on to our settings. We still have, you mentioned 2 DCC adventures coming out based on the armor. Do we still have a regular releases plan for that?
Yes.
Or the DCC community?
Yes, there will be quite a few as usual. And they get interspersed with other projects, but we'll show you as Doug finishes our paperwork to show off. We'll show you more of those researches.
There's a link to this session last year. We've got this and this and this plan. Just got it asked.
Now,
On that, blue jar campaign setting.
I know people always answer that. Somewhere down the road, yeah, it's on the long-term list. Yeah. Harley has 2 young children, so it's he's always kind of busy these days. But his bandwidth frees up for the answer.
Right. As I said, actually I said this probably last year, the same, was doing it. The main design focus for doing DCC Landmark is it had to work on 3 levels. It had to work, if you had no interest in running anything Langmar or anything Liber, but you were looking for a cool new monster, or a new spell, or a new patron, or something like that, you would be able to pull the material from the DCC set and insert it into your regular, blue book DCC game. So it had to work in that level. It also had to work that, if you wanted to run DCC kind of core, as I've been calling it, but have it be set in Newan, it had to work it that way. Although there's no true libers or true like halflings or elves or anything. But if you want to do that, hey, it works that way too. And lastly, it had to work as if you wanted to run a strict kind of what we're calling the literary Landmark game, you would have the optional modes to do that. But yes, very much so. Especially with the Langmar City book is going to be designed like if you just kind of ignore the serial numbers on stuff, it's not the Street of the Gods, it's it's the Temple District. You can still use all that material and use it in an ongoing urban-based campaign. So that's been very important. And yes, this one is something. I'm sure when by the time Harley gets done doing Punjar, he'll have something else on top of that as well.
I actually want to show you guys a video. So we're going to grab this effort. So this is our special advanced choreography. We're going to turn off the lights in a minute. That's the other usually, but all right, ready?
Yep.
Nobody panic. Turn back on. guys, Bob Bledsaw Sr. founded Judges Guild, which was one of the most successful gaming companies in the 70s and 80s. Bob Bledsaw Jr. is his son and was involved as child labor working at Judges Guild. We announced about 2 years ago a partnership with Judges Guild, which is currently headed by Bob, to produce some of the original works of Judges Guild, which are some of the best, as Mike said, some of the best products of the golden age of gaming, and produce them in what I'll call commemorative archival format. I'm going to talk a little bit about that format, just to understand the scope of what we're trying to do. I'm going to ask Bob some questions about the early days. Well, what we're trying to do is the kind of thing that I would never have even attempted if it were not for Kickstarter. I've shown you guys this before, but I have to stand up with this thing. This is the printer sample of the book that we want to publish.
Two legs.
So this is actually smaller than the final version. The final version looks much larger. But this is the book. The printed paper size will be 13 inch by 18 inch. Probably what we want to do is actually take the original printings of Teagle Manor, Madagascar, and Citadel of Fire and include them in a format that will not degrade over time. But it's also because when Judges Guild started, it was a mail order business. You subscribed to the Judges Guild and you would get in the mail on a periodic basis a copy of the Judges Guild Journal and next release. And people have forgotten about the Judges Guild journals, but these were these were newsletters of comparable quality to the original issues of Dragon. And they were printed on newsprint. So we like to preserve these in an archival format at the size they were originally published, which was roughly 11 by 17. So the page size for this book is actually big enough to print it in the original format. This is a copy from Bob's personal collection, and it's one of the few that's in decent condition. If you can find these for sale at all, they're often, it's newsprint, right? They're often in terrible condition. And it's amazing to even have this one. But what we've done is have folks basically spend the last 2 years scanning all these and restoring them. And there's examples of some of the scans of their sheets and quality. So they look probably as close as they could possibly look to the original publication, possibly even better. And it's really incredible stuff. It's from an era when there were no rules about how to do these things. So when Judges Guild started, literally TSR had never published an adventure module when Judges Guild first released their first adventure module. And TSR at the time didn't believe there was a market for those sorts of products. They thought gamers would never buy something prepackaged in that manner. The reason we have Keep on the Borderlands and Tomb of Horrors and all these existing publications is because Judges Guild established the format, established the marketplace, essentially created this body of work and evidence that customers would actually be interested in. Really, half the marketing ideas I have, I basically ripped off Judges Guild. They did, or Bob Bledsaw Sr. did an amazing job in the early days with his partner Phil Owen of producing a company that made amazing products and sort of creating a marketplace out of nowhere for these products in a way that just didn't exist before. So the Judges Guild journals, to my knowledge, have never been reprinted. This is also the 40th anniversary of the origination of Judges Guild, and they've never been reprinted in those 40 years. So this will be the first time they've ever been reprinted. The volume will have 5 of them in total, 3 of them that shipped originally with Teagle Manor, Madagascar, and Citadel of Fire, and then 2 more that have what I'll call historical relevance, which is explaining the Kickstarter text. The Kickstarter just went live about an hour ago. If you pledge here at the con, we have produced these awesome Judges Guild member buttons. Bob is wearing the original one from the 70s on his lapel, which is awesome.
This is my own personal copy. I've got my father's, and that's it. There's nothing to add.
And we scanned those and had them restored. The same manner as restoring all this to produce these buttons. So if you pledge here at the show, swing by and show us your program or whatever. We'll give you a free button. I'm going to show a couple more samples, then turn it over to Bob. So this was the printer sample that I had asked the printer for about a year ago when I was first starting this, and I had to get printer quotes. Like I said, I would never have attempted this without Kickstarter. This is an insanely expensive production. This is like why Kickstarter exists to do stuff like this. What I have here is 2 samples of the contents. The layout's about 90% done. This is the reduced size version of the layout. We wanted to show you the whole thing, so I'll have this after the seminar, and if you want to go back to the booth, leave it in the booth. Actually, we'll raffle this off too, so you can raffle ticket this away. So this is the current in process layout. It's like 220 something pages, so you can see all the content. And if you look at this, there's obviously parts of the layout that are still rough when you look at this, so it'll be final by the time it's done. But this is just to show you what's in there and to reiterate the fact that it's basically 90% done. And there's parts that are colored, but anyway, it's awesome. You can see sort of what's in the book. This is a version, and this is the biggest that actually got printed, 11 by 17. So this we had to track down a custom art printer. And so we print out a shorter sample. This is actually really expensive to produce, but this is actually the 13 by 18 inch actual size, big size. This one's reduced by like 10 or 15%. We'll wrap on the top too. But this is just to show you the actual printed size, what it will look like. And if you pull these out, you'll see that the final print size is actually bigger than the book. So, to fit everything we wanted to fit, we had to go bigger. So the final book will be slightly bigger than the sample. So it's going to be a monster. It'll hopefully do well and hopefully be a format for establishing a way to preserve some of the early works in this industry. And Bob Butsaw III is in the audience too. So I just wanted to talk to Bob and have him tell us about the early days and tell us what you think about this project.
I love the project because it's really the only way we can archive all the work. And I was telling my sons on the way up here today that there was a lot more. If you look at Judges Guild and what we produced by the month, we produced maybe 2 to 4 products a month. On a busy month, 4. But at the same time, as our crew grew and as our subscriptions grew, we were also going back, and if the product needed to be reprinted, we were running short. We were always looking at ways of improving the next print run. So even though what you ordered in the catalog might be product number 62, what you got a year later was not necessarily at all like what you got the year before. We did a lot of rewrites. We changed out artwork. We would add content or pull content out. Between printings, for example, I don't know if anyone has seen it. Between printing 2 and 3 of Under the Stone Giants, or Under the Cloud Giants, I guess. If you look, there's so much of the content that's changed. The artists have changed. They've even done imitations of the artwork that's in there in the second to improve it, make it better. Between those 2 products, but of course the covers didn't change that much. A little slight change in the cover, but the content, it's almost like 2 different products under the cover. There was a lot of that at the Guild where we were working on what was new and coming out. We would have a crew working on the next project. But at the same time, we were going back and looking at what we could do to make the older products better. The only way you can see that extra effort is in a montage like this of everything, where it's not really what Joe is doing is great.
That's
That's all I can say.
Well, the material that Bob has produced is amazing. That video you saw had actual photographs of Judges Guild employees from roughly 30 to 40 years ago.
Yeah, it was very much my home. I was there 6 or 7 days a week. It was a family business. It was child labor, but all family businesses were. I mean, I was more than happy to be there, and I'm more than happy to be here. Last time I was here was I was 15, just to play with.
You came here for that TinCon?
Yes, I did. It was
Probably couldn't
the
keep
first
you
time.
away.
Well, it was the first time I got to meet like Jim Ward, Lou Saki, a lot of people that I later come to really admire for getting to know what they've done. But it just feels like I feel very honored. I know my dad would be very proud of this.
So I remember the stories of, I forget the exact age you told me, but you gave you some amount to do some of the art. And you actually tried illustrations for all these products.
Yeah. I was started out at $3.35 an hour, but the early line art, I was paid $20 to $30 per drawing if they were used. A lot of them really shouldn't have been, but they were because he wanted to. I was a young art student at the time, and he spent the extra money to put me to a little private art school, and he was encouraging me, like any father would. I feel real privileged because I was always back of the house. I was the artist. I was the one that did base stuff. And I did layout and I worked on a lot of the maps. I worked on the original city-state map twice because it had to be recreated. The first one got destroyed. things like the dungeon tag cards, inking in illustrations, inking, well, he inked the original logo, but I created that. So in a way, people tell me, they remind me, they go, Bob, but you were there back in the beginning, you're a part of this, and it's just, stepping into his shoes is just really, I can't do that. I can always be his son, but I was just glad to be a part of it.
And what your dad did was impressive. I mean, built a business model that didn't exist previously. And he into law enforcement.
Yes.
So built something out of nothing. Created the concept of the adventure module. Published the first sort of viable, commercially successful adventure modules. And additionally, TSR changed course as a result of what you guys were doing. And Gary Gygax actually credited your dad and Dr. Maxwell died. That changed the way TSR decided to function.
Yes. Yes, all of that is true. But it was very fly by the seat of your pants. It was always a gamble. They didn't know what would work and what didn't. A lot of collation, a lot of hard work. I remember, counting tack cards until my fingers bled. And then we got little rubber tips that we could put on our. That's child labor. But I joke. It was family. It was what we did. It was to help. It was fun. It really was. Getting to see your art in print. Going back to the junior high school and telling them you spent the weekend at the Playboy Club, no one believing you.
And I like your stories about the reprints and how they changed for each.
Oh, they did. And it was like, the only thing I can compare it to is there's a big difference between a 67 Chrysler Impala and a 71 Chrysler Impala. Or Chevy Impala. It's like a car model type. It would change from printing to printing, depending upon what was under the hood, how we changed it. So it would be very different. But in the catalog, it was the same number. We never really, we were unprofessional in a lot of ways. An example is collectors will go back and look at our installments, and they'll see initial booklet 1 or I, because my dad used the Roman numeral 1. And he got so busy with other things that the snowball was rolling. And then when my mom was typing up for the second one, she just went from I to J. So we had K, L, M, N. Nobody knew how to get off of that. And then the real collectors, they're like, where's B and C and F? Maybe someday.
So that's the real story behind it?
Yes, that is.
Okay, because I always heard that I was supposed to stand for initial.
No, initial was part of the title.
Oh, okay, all right. I didn't know if that was part of the smoke screen afterward. That's what it's all intended.
But that's why it went on J. M had nothing to do with motor.
And then one of the things we're going to try to capture in here is the multiple printings. Because some of them were minor variations. Some of them had cover, like Madagascar, the color scheme changes every one, and the art changes slightly, but it's still fundamentally the same cover. Whereas Citadel Flyer has 3 covers, there are 4 printings. 3 of the 4 of those have covers that are completely different. First one's a tower, that's full color, then you have like the witches with the bubbles kind of thing. So there's variations that are sometimes subtle and sometimes completely different. And then you have things like Teagle Manor. The first publication was like 8.5 by 5.5, like very tiny. And then by the second and third publication, it's letter size.
Modron was the same one. It was a very small booklet.
For the first printing, by the time it was done, it was letter size.
Yeah.
And so, like for Teagle, for example, we're not going to reprint every edition of every book in here, but for Teagle, we're actually going to show the complete first printing and the complete fourth printing because they're just the contents over 90% the same, but the format is completely different. And it's really interesting how they kind of evolved over time.
Yeah, and without Joe putting all of this together, there's just no place you can find it. I mean, you would go on eBay and just collect to your heart's content, and maybe you could put a complete collection together. I've never seen anyone who had not a complete Judge's Guild collection of all the printings. It's hard for me to find these things.
Luckily, Bob has an incredible basement.
Well, I don't trust them in the basement. They're in a large 2-car garage in plastic totes and file cabinets. That's where the art, the manuscripts, I go out there and I try to find things to answer questions online. Sometimes it's just bewildering. some of the questions I did. So I have to study up because I might have laid it out, named the maps, but I didn't read the content. We can't pull it out of here.
We'll never have a binder gen copy of it. When you handed me one of those little folders from your dad's files, and it had my 16-year-old art in it that I'd sent in that didn't get published. Did you read through your dad's
It
files?
should have got to you sooner. and well, that was one of the things I did. I went through my dad's old files and I got like old Jackway's, Janelle Jackway's. A lot of her material has been returned to her. I'm doing that with a lot of artists.
And that's decent. That's
Yeah.
unbelievably decent.
Yeah.
Well, most of these people
They're your children, kind of.
One of the things that Bob offered to do for the Kickstarter is that, and we'll work this into the stretch goals this week. This is a really, it doesn't, maybe it does look complex. It's actually really complex because there's only, one of the printers I normally work with can't even print this format, so there's a lot of complexities finding a guy who can do this and so on. But as we iron out the stretch goals, one of the things Bob offered is actually getting some original art, just on the back of this one, put it into some kind of,
I know I can say.
So how's it feeling 40 years later?
It is amazing. It's amazing. I'm 52 now. I was just a kid when I started, so it touches me in a lot of different places because it's just a big part of my life. It always was, but it's evolved. Definitely has evolved. The market is different. The internet has changed so much of it. It used to be all mail order and I was answering questions for Janelle Jackway. Just all of this correspondence from those days, sometimes 3 letters a day, she would type in. All about projects that was being worked on, projects that never got finished, never were fulfilled. So I was talking to her about those projects. What happened to those? What happened to those titles? She had forgotten a lot of them.
Oh, really?
But yeah, so what I'm going to do when I get back is I'm going to scan all those letters so that she can get a copy of them, so that she can, because history-wise, it dates everything. It dates the projects that was being worked on. It's kind of chronological. I don't know where I'm going with that one. It's just,
The stuff that he pulls up, because I asked for some vintage photos, kind of archival type stuff for the Kickstarter, as well as to put in the books to show examples of what it was like. Like the pictures, nobody has a computer in any of those pictures, There's one guy with a typewriter and some draftsmen with like pencils, and like it's so different, the whole production process.
we only had 3 computers at the time. 2 of them were TRS-82s. Then we had one that was an Apple that Chuck Anshell brought down from Chicago and acquired the dungeon. But
Color separations were pretty good in the original. Remember that?
yes.
So different. So the sort of memorabilia also reveals to me just the way publishing has changed, which we all know, but it's really interesting to see those photos and see how different it is back in the day.
One of the other things I would mention about my dad is a lot of the success in the early days was because of the maps, the city-state map. He had been an engineer with GE for years, and before that he had worked as an apprentice draftsman for other companies. But by the time he got to GE, he was kind of considered a shining star in the department, and he moved up kind of quickly, and he had a crew under him. And what they did was they made record changers there in Decatur, Illinois. Some of the earliest hi-fi stereo systems, the quadraphonic systems, was my dad's design. He would design them, and sometimes one day the machining department, I'll tell the story. One day the machining department in GE came to my father and said, we can't make this. There was some sort of a groove jointed cylinder that he needed for a record changer. And they said, their machining department said, we can't make this. We have no we have no machine to make this. We can't make this part. You have to redesign it. So my father went home, stayed up all that night, and designed a machine that would make the part that they needed. And it actually included a breakdown on the cost on what it would cost to make this part, or the machine for the part. And they went with it. And from there, he kind of moved on. And then they decided to close the record changer plant down and move it to Texas. And my father just didn't want to leave his family. He had a lot of family. And he decided not to. At the same time, we were hit with a railroad explosion in 1974, which destroyed our home. Luckily, we were on vacation in Florida at the time. And so I was the oldest of 3 children and came back to a destroyed home. And so we lived with various relatives in town for a while until the insurance got around to paying us. My dad was facing no job, really a blank slate for a future. So he decided, well, let's put a little money into this thing that he was enjoying, this gaming. And he managed to get Bill Owen to go in as a partner. Of the gaming group, only Bill Owen would go along with him. And he offered several of them to join in. But it was Bill Owen that decided to take him up on the venture. And they did. But, from there, the ball was rolling. But his maps is what I started out by saying. The city-state map was originally not done on paper. It was done on a vellum, which was clear and smooth on one side, kind of frosty, gritty on the other. And it was for blueprints and for machining documents and things. That's what they used it. But it had that snap and pizzazz that only a real engineer or architect can give it. And I think that's what people really grabbed hold of when they saw that map. It was big, it was beautiful. To me, when I see it on the wall, it's like a work of art. But mechanically, it works. We were in Florida on vacation that same year, and my father was. We were taking a tour of one of the castles, the Spanish castles. And my dad got off away from the tour group, and I walk over to him, and he would always carry pens, of course, and he had a little pad of paper, and he was leaned out over a precipice, making a design on the paper. He was getting the measurements of a staircase as a part of the castle. He was leaned out over there, and he was making the dimensions notes. But that was the way my dad wanted it. It was just kind of quirky. I'm sure it got incorporated into one of the projects.
Yeah, I mean, those maps. I mean, even at the dawn of the hobby, there was nothing like that. I mean, it was we warriors come out with the palace of vampires, but that had a tiny little map. I mean, it's like a treasure map in and of itself. It was like a pirate map.
Yeah, he had the skill.
So I mean,
he had the skill, but he had the combined love of years and years of. He was a great reader, and he loved sci-fi, Heinlein, Tolkien, Asimov, just a lot of different personal friends. That helps. But it was because he admired his books. It was actually here that he met Frank Frisell. Yes. Frank had done some art for Playboy earlier. And he was here at the time. He was working on the cover of, I believe, The Gauntlet, which was for Infinity Script. And my dad saw him and recognized him, and got to talking to him. And well, we had been selling his prints. My dad knew of him, but they never met him in person. So that was when we met. Now, I think we were already selling his prints before that. But that was the first time I got it. So it was a big deal to me. I honestly, these people that I have all these legends today, Colonel Lusaki and Frank, I had to grow
to realize who they were and how big they were and what they did. And I'll tell this story, I've told it before, I think, but it's just where my head was at. Whenever I was an 18-year-old kid working at the Guild full time, if I was stumped on an art project at my college, because I was taking college courses, I had Frank's number on my Rolodex on my desk, and I'd just call him. And Ellie would answer, and it's Bob Bledsoe. Which Bob? I think it's Little Bob. And so then Frank would come to the phone, and I would say, Frank, I'm stuck with this, and what do I do about this? And he would give me some advice, very fatherly. He talked more to my dad than he talked to me. But I was just one of those kids where I didn't have a problem with calling him up. I didn't see nothing wrong with it. He was very friendly. And then, of course, later in 2005, he gave us a use of a very good piece of art for the cover of Goodman's for Necro. People I should have kept in touch with, you know. I was never one of those people that could ask him for a drawing or a sketch. You just can't do that with someone like that. But then you wish that you had.
Those are awesome stories. Anybody have any questions?
Bob, your father was a Johnny. Your father was there at the start of an entire brand new industry. Your father had a gigantic hand in shaping the way that industry went. And your family has made contributions to this industry that none of us can thank you enough.
I was going to say something about, you say contributions. Really, it's he had a chance to do what he loved, and making money at it was a side one. You know, to pay the bills and pay the bills, but it's not that often that you get to find something that you love that you can actually make money at. That's really important. It's what ended up. It's on his tombstone. It's like pioneer of fantasy gaming. He was laying there dying. He's dead, and he asked me to design it. I said, Dad, you want me to design this? He said, yes. And so I worked on it a few days, and I brought it to him to show him the finished design. And he said, I don't want to see it. And I said, it was unusual. He asked me to design something, and I designed it. It was the first time he refused to see a work of my art, you know, something I'd done. And he said, well, that's for others to see. I'm sure you did a fine job. And so it's got the little flying turkey on it. And it's got, you know, pioneer of fantasy gaming. So it's just the way it is. Yeah, it's true. And things like this keep it alive. And put it in the hands of a fresh generation. It's important for the younger kids to have this material to romp through, to explore. Wilderlands is very open-ended. It's an open-ended world. It can grow forever. And the products, you know, some of them speak louder than others, but hard work and love went into all of it. And it wasn't just my dad. It was many, many other authors. We had so many people around us that was creative and that helped and poured their hearts into it. And some had more talent than others. And so I admire all of the work, and I admire the work of Joseph Goodman and his crew. He's surrounded by the same type of creative people that I felt whenever I was with my father and his crew. there's a lot of ideas, and a lot of directions that can be traveled. So I'm just honored to be a part of it. And thank you for those words.
Guys, that's the end of today's talk. If you pledge on the Kickstarter, swing by, pick up a pin. We'll have these in the booth later on as well. If you come by to grab a raffle ticket, come by tomorrow by the booth Sunday at 9, and we'll raffle off those things. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Yeah.